Right, and now we move on to our next keynote speaker. And it gives me great pleasure to introduce my colleague and, dare I say, friend, although from the opposite side of the chamber. We've worked together over the previous 10 years on many things scientific in Parliament. And it gives me, as I said, great pleasure to introduce to you Chi Onwurah. And Chi is the Shadow Minister for Science and Research, and is a great advocate of all things scientific, and has great expertise in this area, having rejoined the front bench under the new leader, Sir Keir Starmer. So Chi, we very much look forward to hearing what you have to say.
Well, thank you very much, Stephen, for that introduction, and thanks to the Royal Society for Biology for organising today under such difficult circumstances. And it's great to be here. I'm the MP for Newcastle Central, as well as Shadow Minister for Digital Science and Technology. And I'm also a chartered engineer. And I like to say that I entered politics for exactly the same reason I entered engineering over 3 decades ago now, to make the world work better for everyone. And I believe that politics and science are the twin engines of progress. And as someone who has moved from a scientific or engineering career into politics, I know that there are real differences, if you like, in the culture and the experience of both, going from an evidence-based scientific rational and logical working environment into one which is less so. But as part of the pandemic, we have seen the coronavirus pandemic. You know, it is one of the few, if you like, in my view, is a good things to have come out of the pandemic is the fact that science is on the front page. You know, and scientists are on our national media. They're on Question Time. You know, there are millions across the country are tuning in to hear the UK's leading scientists speak, and the government proclaimed its emphasis on following the science. But as part of that, and as we've been discussing, that's put science sort of in the front line and into the firing line as well. And sometimes I have to say that in watching the relationship between ministers and scientists, I'm reminded of the old joke about the drunk and the lamppost, who uses the lamppost more for support than for illumination. And I feel that some politicians have been using science as a shield rather than as a basis for policy making and for taking decisions that only ministers can take. And this has had an impact on trust in science and scientists. And I think there's been too much, and certainly ministers blaming scientists. There's been controversy around that. And I think, firstly, ministers should not be blaming the scientists, but I think science needs to, as a part of that, and the part of the challenge was that the SAGE committee wasn't public and it wasn't transparent. So science has to be open and transparent, and it also has to share the parts of its the science, the scientific method, which actually do involve doubt, and different competing views and challenge. And it has to promote trust in science. I think scientists have to show more trust in people. Here in the UK, and I was like that, we have fantastic world-leading scientific tradition, from Isaac Newton to Stephen Hawking, Ada Lovelace to Rosalind Franklin, and of course Newcastle-born Peter Higgs, who discoverer of the Higgs boson. We have a hugely important scientific platform in history, and we have, I believe very strongly, a hugely important scientific future. And I think we must take the opportunity, if you like, as part of our response to the pandemic, to change the direction and the culture, of innovation in our life and economy, so that it benefits communities across the country. And so what I like to talk about building an innovation nation, where science is part of the sort of cultural DNA of everyone, rather than a narrow and generally unrepresentative elite. So that's why Labour is committed at the last general election to spending 3% of our GDP on research and development, and we welcome the Conservative government's commitment to spending 2.4% and to increasing the science budget. We think as part of that, that needs to drive our economy forward to a high scale, high productivity, high wage economy, that as the technological transformation we've seen as part of the pandemic, but which will continue into manufacturing, into every aspect of our lives, changing work, changing jobs, that science needs to be at the forefront of that, and that everyone needs to benefit from that. So we also need to have a greater investment in education and lifelong skills. 20% of the UK workforce are employed in science roles, and those employees earn 40% more than the average wage for those jobs. Now, that is one of the contributions to both the gender pay gap and also the race pay gap, should we be able to have to be measuring it, as those in working in scientific roles are unfortunately so underrepresentative of the country as a whole, and science needs to do more to address that, and that is part of winning trust and increasing trust as science changes our future. So I think, to close, the economic outcome of COVID-19 will damage many sectors of our society, but science, research and innovation can help us build back a better, more equal and more high-skilled and globally competitive economy. Our economy depends on the UK being an innovation nation, and science as an engine of progress in our country. And we need to ensure that that is representative of our country, and that the science and politics and the people have trust in each other, and we have an innovation nation that is something that everyone can benefit from and participate in.